The Hollow Warren. Part 1. The Egg That Bled. I never believed in the Easter Bunny. Even as a kid, when everyone else was waking up to baskets of pastel eggs and sugary treats, I saw through the ribbons and cellophane. My parents didn't bother pretending. They were too broke for nonsense, too tired for stories. So I grew up thinking I'd dodged the fantasy, spared the myth. I was wrong. The Easter Bunny is real. And it's nothing like you think. It started with a package. No return address. No stamp. Just a plain cardboard box left on my front step, sealed with old masking tape and covered in dirt. Not regular dirt. This stuff smelled like earth that had never seen sunlight. Like something dug from deep below. I live alone. I didn't order anything, but I took it inside anyway. Curiosity always wins. Inside was a single egg. Not plastic. Not chocolate. Real. Brown and speckled, like a bird's. Warm to the touch. It pulsed softly in my hand, like it had a heartbeat. And tied around it with a faded yellow ribbon was a note. The Warren remembers. You are called. No signature. Just a drawing at the bottom. A rabbit. Roughly sketched. Smiling. But the smile wasn't cute. It was wide. Too wide. I left the egg on the counter. Tried to ignore it. But that night I heard it. From the kitchen. A scratching sound. Slow. Repetitive. Like claws against the inside of a shell. I crept down the hallway, every step quieter than breath. The kitchen lights were off. But the egg was glowing. A soft amber light pulsed from within, flickering like candlelight through bone. The scratching stopped. I reached for it. And then it cracked. A thin red line split down the middle. Not red like a yolk or blood, red like rusted meat. Like something that had been rotting in silence. The crack widened. And something moved inside. I backed away. The shell peeled open in wet fragments, and from it crawled a small, hairless creature. It was rabbit-shaped, but wrong. Its limbs were too long, too thin, its eyes glassy and white, its mouth filled with tiny square teeth, like the kind you'd see in a doll's head. It stared at me. And then it smiled. I smashed it with a frying pan. Didn't think. Just acted. It didn't bleed. It whimpered. And beneath the sound was something else. A whisper. Not from the thing. From the egg fragments. I leaned close. They said, "Too soon. The Hollow Warren is not ready." I burned everything. Box, shell, body, all of it. The fire smelled like hair and sick. Like Easter grass left to rot in a crawl space. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. The next morning, I found footprints in the yard. Rabbit prints. Dozens of them. But far too big. Each one the size of my hand, pressed deep into the mud, trailing from the woods at the edge of the property straight to my front porch. At the base of the door sat another egg. This one pale blue. And slightly cracked. Inside, something twitched. I didn't touch it. I ran. Grabbed my keys, jumped in my truck, drove. Didn't care where. Just away. But no matter which direction I took, every road led back. Back to my house. To the porch. To the egg. I stayed locked inside all day. No more scratching. No more whispering. But just after sunset, I heard a new sound. Thumping. Heavy. Deliberate. Like footsteps. Coming from the roof. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. The next morning, the egg was gone. But in its place, a basket. Filled with candy. And fur. Still warm. Tucked at the bottom was another note. Written in script that twisted like tangled roots. You were chosen long ago, Eli. The Warren remembers its children. I hadn't been called Eli in years. Not since my mother died. Only she ever called me that. I went to the basement. Pulled up the box of old family things. Photos, letters, junk. At the bottom, I found a drawing. Me at age 7. Standing beside a man in a rabbit suit. But the suit was wrong. It was too real. The fur patchy. The hands clawed. The mouth not a costume, just wide and open. And I was smiling. Eyes blank. Like I'd been told to. On the back, in my mother's handwriting. Eli's first Easter with the hollow. I'd never seen the photo before. Never remembered that day. But something inside me shifted. Something opened. Like a door I didn't know I had. And I remembered the tunnel. Dark. Warm. Alive. The smell of moss and old meat. Laughter echoing through the soil. And eyes. Hundreds of eyes. Watching me crawl. Watching me change. That night the doorbell rang. I didn't answer. But I watched from the window as they came. A procession. Silent. Rabbits. But not rabbits. Tall as men. Flesh too loose, eyes too human. Each one holding an egg. Each egg dripping. They didn't speak. They didn't move. They just stood there. Waiting. The hollow Warren had come for me. And I was remembering. Part 2, Beneath the Garden. I should have left. I should have gotten in the truck, floorboarded until the wheels came off and the gas tank bled dry. But where do you run when every road leads back to your own name? When the dirt under your house knows you? When the things outside call you by a name only the dead should remember? Eli. I hadn't said it out loud in decades. But I could feel it now, carved behind my tongue like a birthmark. Like something waiting to be spoken. The procession of rabbit things stayed outside until the sun began to rise. Then they turned, as one, and walked into the woods behind the house. Slow. Patient. And not once did they look back. I thought it was over. Until I opened the back door. And saw the hole. It hadn't been there the day before. At least, not all the way. A mound of disturbed earth had grown in the flower bed my mother once tended. Crocuses and bleeding hearts now lay crushed and half-eaten in the soil, replaced by a single hole, circular, clean, and too dark to be natural. The smell coming out of it. It was sweet, like old sugar left out in the sun. And something else, warm fur and wet wood, the scent of birth and burrowing. The wind shifted, and I heard it. From deep below. A laugh. Not high-pitched. Not joyful. A deep, guttural chittering, like someone choking on teeth. I should have closed the door. But I didn't. I climbed down. The tunnel was narrower than I expected. Damp. The walls pulsed slightly, like breathing skin. Roots hung down like strands of wet hair. The deeper I went, the warmer it got. The air buzzed, not from insects, but from a living hum, like I was walking through a throat made of soil and memory. And the laughter kept getting closer. I don't know how long I crawled. Time drowns in the warren. It stretches and bends. At some point, my hands were raw, my clothes soaked, my mouth full of the taste of old milk and bone. Then I reached the door. It was made of wood, carved with the same twisted symbols I saw on the egg's ribbon. In the center, a handle fashioned from a rabbit's foot, bloated, fur-matted, yellowed claw extended as if pointing inward. I opened it. The heat hit me first. Then the smell. Then the eyes. They lined the walls. Dozens. Hundreds. All sizes. All open. Watching. Blinking. Weeping. Not decoration. Alive. Their pupils shrank as I entered. Some wept yolk. Some wept blood. And at the center of the warren, he waited. The hollow king. 7 feet tall, hunched like a spider. His fur was the color of ash. His ears dragged the floor, tattered at the tips. His limbs were stitched with thread made of hair, and his face. God. There wasn't a face. Just an empty hollow where the muzzle should be. A darkness that absorbed light. And from within it the whisper. Welcome home, Eli. You left. But your egg was never broken. He raised a hand. It held an egg. My name was etched into it in flesh. And it was cracking. I tried to speak. But the air inside the warren is thick with obedience. It kneels your thoughts. It hatches your fears. And the king does not ask. He only remembers. I saw things then. Memories I never made. Children sitting in circles underground, each with bloody ears sewn to their heads. Rabbits the size of men, bent backward, singing songs in reverse. A garden with no sun, fed by bones and hair. A woman's voice, my mother's, saying, "It's your turn now, Eli. You need to be filled." I backed away. But the eyes on the walls wept louder. The king stood. His body unfolded like fabric unwrapping around a secret. And from the hollow in his face, he breathed me in. Next thing I remember, I was back in my bed. Clothes soaked. Hands shaking. Mouth full of dirt. At the foot of the bed was another basket. This one filled with hair. Mine! I checked the mirror. My scalp was bleeding. 2 small lumps had formed above my ears. Hard. Pale. Budding. Like something was growing beneath. I haven't left the house since. Not because I'm afraid. But because I'm remembering. The warren isn't under the garden. It's under everything. It's a wound that runs through the world, hidden in crawl spaces and storm drains, in forgotten fields and broken basements. It finds you when you stop believing, when you think you're safe, when you throw away your last Easter basket. The king waits for me to finish hatching. He watches through the roots in the walls. I feel him behind the mirror, in the space beneath my bed. The next egg came this morning. It was in the sink. Cracked. Bleeding. Inside was a piece of my tongue. Part 3. The Gathering Burrow. By the 3rd day, the trees started bending. I don't mean swaying. I don't mean creaking in the wind. I mean bending toward the house. Their trunks leaned like they were straining to look through the windows. Their branches tapped the glass with twigs shaped like fingers. The sky had gone gray, not overcast, just wrong. A kind of dull gray that makes it feel like the sun has been smothered under wet wool. Everything felt slow. The clocks ran in reverse. The shadows stretched wrong, pulling upward along the ceiling. And the eggs kept coming. I found one in the fridge, floating in the milk. Pale green, warm to the touch. When I cracked it, it screamed. Not loud, just a faint keening sound, like a baby buried under 100 blankets. Inside, a strip of skin. Mine. Still pulsing. Folded into the shape of a rabbit's ear. There was no note this time. But I didn't need one. The Hollow King was done speaking. Now he wanted me to listen. It was around midnight when I heard the first knock. Not on the front door. Not on the walls. From beneath the floorboards. 3 raps. Deliberate. Followed by a rustling, like something dragging for a crosswood. I sat up, frozen, as the knocking moved down the hall, slow and steady, then stopped outside my bedroom. And then, a voice. Soft. Reedy. Childlike. We're coming up now. The floor cracked. The boards warped. And from the gap seeped a smell I knew all too well now. Moss, meat, and sugar. It filled the room like a fog. I didn't move. Couldn't. Because part of me wanted this. Because deep inside, the memories were blooming, memories I shouldn't have, of tunnels and teeth, of fur-lined hymns and offerings and baskets made of ribs. I was called, and the flock had arrived. The first one rose through the crack like smoke. Small, childlike, head crowned with matted rabbit ears, skin gray and patchy. Its hands dragged nails against the wall, tracing circles and spirals. Its mouth was too wide. Its nose twitched. And behind it, more. Dozens. They emerged in silence, climbing up from beneath the house like roots unraveling. Each one held an egg. Each egg had a name written in curled, carved letters. My name. Dozens of times. In different hands. One child held out a broken egg filled with air. Another carried one filled with milk teeth. Another filled with flies. They formed a ring around the bed. And in one voice, not their mouths, but the air itself, they spoke. The time of hatching has come. The hollow warren grows hungry. The Hollow King waits on his throne of dirt and bone. You must bring the bloom. And with that, they placed the eggs at my feet. Then they bowed and sank back into the floor. When I woke, the eggs were still there. But now they were open. Empty. Except for one. The last. It was made of glass. Inside floated a fetus. Rabbit-shaped. Human-eyed. Smiling. Identical to me. I didn't scream. Not this time. Instead, I took it outside. To the garden. The hole was waiting. Wider now. Breathing. I dropped the glass egg in. The earth swallowed it whole. And when I turned to go back inside, I found a basket waiting for me on the porch. Not candy this time. Not fur. Just a mask. Made from my face. And another note. The bloom has begun. Gather the rest. I don't remember walking into town. I only remember arriving. Feet muddy. Hands clutching the mask. The streetlights flickered above like dying fireflies. Storefronts were dark. The town was hushed, like it had been blanketed in soil. And on every doorstep, a basket. Every house, every porch, each with an egg. Each egg pulsing, each egg whispering. And I understood what I had to do. I went door to door, knocking, placing the eggs in hands too asleep to resist. Children, parents, elders. I sang the hymn. Didn't know how I knew it, but I did. My voice came soft and low, a lullaby of tunnels, of fur, of forgetting. They smiled in their sleep, and behind their eyes, I saw the Warren waking up. By morning, the town was quiet, too quiet. No cars, no birds, just wind over grass and the faint ticking of hatching eggs. At noon, the first child opened his mouth and screamed. From the scream came roots, teeth, and a rabbit. Small, smiling, still wet. It climbed into the boy's arms and curled up. He laughed. But it wasn't his laugh. It was the Hollow King's. By nightfall, they all had them. Their own little rabbit. Each one different. Each one whispering. And I watched from the edge of town as the trees bent lower. As the sky pulsed red. As the warren above ground grew legs. The Hollow King is coming. He's rising. And he's not just beneath the earth anymore. He's in us. And I am the gardener now. I am the one who plants the bloom. Part 4. The Warren Above. By the end of that week, Easter came early. No sunrise. No bells. No children in pastels chasing plastic eggs across wet lawns. Just dirt. Everywhere. Piled along windowsills. Blown into vents. Stuffed into mouths that once whispered bedtime prayers. It wasn't regular earth. It was hollow soil, pulled from the deep places, the remembering places, the kind of dirt that feels warm when you touch it. The kind that grows things when no one's looking. The town was gone by sunrise. Or rather, rewritten. The street signs no longer made sense. Main St. now read Spine. The hardware store had become a burrow, walls lined with hay, floors stitched together with rabbit fur and roots. Church pews bloomed mushrooms in the shape of hands folded in prayer. And every mirror in every house showed the Hollow King's face. Not moving, just waiting. I walked through the center of town with a mask on. My face, dried and cured, stretched over bone. It fit perfectly. No straps needed. It breathed with me. The gardener's role, I've learned, is not to choose. It's to deliver. And I had much to deliver. The children were the first to bloom. Their laughter rang through the houses, but it wasn't joy, it was a signal. A sonic key that opened crawl spaces and attics alike. Beneath their beds, the warren unfurled, rooting upward. Their rabbits, once small and wet, had grown. Teeth now sharp. Eyes milky. They walked on two legs. They watched. And when the parents woke, they were already smiling. I came to the old school last. The place where I'd once carved my name into a desk with a bent paper clip. It was different now. Doors wide open. lockers pulsing. Inside the gym, the Hollow King's throne had been erected. Not made of wood or bone, but of nests. Stacked and woven from clothes, photos, teeth, and hair. It sat at center court, bleeding softly into the wood beneath. And coiled around it were the devoted. They used to be people. Now, they were shapes. Long ears. Masked faces. Hands with too many joints. They moved like fog across the floor. Some were chanting. Some just rocked in place. One was sewing a new mask from the skin of a local police chief. Another was licking blood from an egg split down the middle like a mouth. The king wasn't there yet. But he was close. I could feel him in my molars. In the root of every breath. In the center of every blooming egg. They say he's always been here. Before the Christian version of Easter. Before fertility myths and pagan icons. Before spring even meant rebirth. The Hollow King came in winter's mouth. He doesn't bring life. He brings replacement. He doesn't resurrect. He hollows. The ground cracked that night. A spiral split through the center of town, wide enough to swallow buildings. From it came the warren above. Burrows bursting through houses. Warrens replacing streets. Everywhere, tunnels. And from them, the faithful. They poured out like ants. Rabbits with stretched flesh. Children with twitching ears. Adults with smiles carved into their cheeks. Some crawled. Some hopped. All sang the same song. Spring is skin. Eggs are eyes. Hollow come. Hollow rise. They welcomed me. Let me walk among them, the mask now warm with purpose. And I could feel him behind my eyes. The king. He hadn't taken my body. No. He had taken my shadow. It now moved without me. Sometimes ahead. Sometimes behind. Sometimes beside. Always smiling. The town became a nest. A single, sprawling hive of ritual and bloom. At its center, we prepared the throne room. Where he would breach. Where the true Easter would arrive. Not with sunrise. But with a cracking sky. We took the town's old bell from the church and hollowed it. Carved spirals. Painted it with yolk and soot. It would ring not for mass, but for hatching. The eggs now grew on trees. Hung like lanterns. Some the size of skulls. Some the size of houses. Inside each, something twitching. Something remembering. I passed one that pressed against its shell and moaned in a voice I knew was my mother's. I did not look back. They call it the blooming hour. When the last egg hatches. When the king steps through the roots into lightless sky. When the earth above becomes a second warren. It's coming. Tomorrow. The bell tolls once every hour. Louder each time. And when it rings 13 times, the Hollow King will come. I will greet him. Mask on. Hands ready. Egg in my arms. A gift of flesh and memory. And when he speaks, I will answer. Because I remember now. I was never born. I was laid. Part 5. When the bell cracked. The 13th toll came at midnight. The sky didn't darken, it peeled. The stars went out like snuffed candles, one by one, and the moon split down the center like a jaw. From the crack spilled a ribbon of fur, thin and gray and twitching, coiling through the air like a limb looking for something to touch. We gathered in the center of the town formerly known as Warren, standing shoulder to shoulder in our masks, our baskets held tight, our shadows no longer ours. They had grown too long, too sharp, too eager. The egg in my basket was warm now, shifting. Its shell was soft, pliable. I could feel the thing inside dragging fingers. Or were they claws? Along the inner membrane, searching for a seam. Around me, the other eggs, thousands of them, were doing the same. A sound rose. Not a scream. A hatch. The air filled with the sound of cracking. Of weeping yolks. Of flesh being borne backward. And then came the first of the new ones. They didn't crawl. They rolled. Half-formed things, all fur and eye, their mouths whispering in voices not yet their own. One pulled itself up by its ears and sighed, long and low, the way a tired god might exhale when waking from a nap taken under the world. They weren't children. They weren't beasts. They were replacements. The hollow king arrived without warning. One moment the ground was dirt. The next, it was a mouth. A yawning spiral that turned the entire town into a throat. He rose from it. Folded at first. Then unfolding. Bone by bone. Fur by fur. Ear by endless ear. His mask was my face. All of our faces. Spinning. Layered. Screaming in prayer. His body dragged across the road, splitting it into canals that bled light. His arms were arms only in the sense that they held. They reached into the sky and pulled down what stars remained, shoved them into his mouth. He ate hope, and we cheered. He stood before us, colossal, crowned in cracked shells and rusted wire. The bell was in his hand now. It bled when he rang it. Each toll sent cracks through the air, splitting reality in uneven fractures. We saw other towns, other Warrens, other gardeners. Some looked like me. Some had antlers. Some were just hands, writing with fingers made of teeth. He spoke then, not aloud, through our bones. His voice was the sound of digging, of skin tearing, of fermenting in fresh blood. You have fed the ground. Now the ground feeds you. Be hollow. Be open. Be me. The mask seared to my face. My skin cracked around the eyes. Beneath the cracks, fur. My mouth split at the corners. My spine doubled. And still I knelt. Still I worshipped. Because this was Easter now. This was the true rising. Not of a man, but of a thing buried deep in our belief. A beast with no scripture, only instinct. Only the urge to replace. The townspeople sang. Soft, wet songs that slipped from mouths filled with new teeth. The new ones clung to them, riding in slings of hair and nest and wire. One crawled into me, not physically, through memory. I saw its life, one it hadn't lived yet, one it would take from someone else, somewhere else. A child named Lily. A girl with freckles and a laugh like a skipping stone. She would never be born now. The new one had her place. Her face. Her mother's voice. It smiled behind my eyes. We marched then. Through the tunnels. Into the world. Every town has a crawl space. A sewer. A storm drain no one looks too deep into. We emerged like mold, like rot with rhythm. We brought eggs. We brought replacement. We brought spring. Not renewal. Not rebirth. Just removal. In the final hour, the Hollow King opened his mouth. Not to eat. Not to speak. To sing. A song in no language. Just sound. And as he sang, we bloomed. Hair fell. Eyes blinked out. Skin opened into petals of purpose. We became rabbits of memory. Hollow. Rooted. Ready. And now I wait. In your walls. In the space beneath your tub. The mask no longer needed. My face is all mouth now. And inside that mouth, eggs. Waiting to be laid. This is Easter now. No baskets. No candy. Just holes in the world. And something that climbs out. Smiling. But if you hear scratching under your floorboards next spring, if you find an egg pulsing, tied with yellow ribbon, don't open it. Don't listen. And whatever you do, don't remember your name.